भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतस्य सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी मुखं करोति वाचालं वाङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिधि नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मदेगबंधो मत्संगिन् मद्गुरो मन्महाधना मन्निस्तारक मद्भाग्या मदानंद नमोस्तुते। The fifth chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is Narada Muni's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. This is the title of the chapter. So this chapter basically deals with how Vyasa Maharshi is putting up his difficulty to Narada Muni, and Narada Muni how he is clarifying Vyasa Maharshi's situation. So there are a total of 40 shlokas in this chapter. The first 7 shlokas are Narada Muni's inquiries and Vyasa's responses, and then from the 8th to the 22nd verse, Narada Muni is telling Vyasadeva the importance of describing Krishna Leela. And from 23rd to the 31st shloka, Narada Muni narrates about his own past life, and shloka 32 to 40 deals with Narada Muni's advice to Vyasa Maharshi. So, Narada has arrived, as we saw in the last chapter. Narada Muni arrives at the ashram of Vyasa Maharshi, and Narada Maharshi is asked to, he takes his seat, and then he is smiling, mandahasa, and addressing the Rishi amongst the Brahmanas, who is none other than Vedavyas. And Narada Muni is asking Vyasa, who is the son of Parashara, so he is asking, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization? And actually, the answer of this question is there in Narada Muni's question itself. That having qualified this statement before by saying that addressing Vyasa, who is the son of Parashara Maharshi, Narada is inquiring. So from that itself we understand that Narada is reminding Vyasadeva about his lineage, that you are the son of Parashara, So that is actually Vyasa Maharshi is coming in a great lineage. His father is Parashara, whose father is Shakti, whose father is Vasishtha. So this is the great lineage to which Vyasa Maharshi belongs. So when he is asking the question that whether are you satisfied by identifying with the body or mind as objects of self-realization, automatically means that being who he is, Vyasadeva should not be satisfied with what he has done. And then Narada is glorifying Vyasadeva, He says that you inquired very well, you studied very well, and you have done a wonderful thing called the Mahabharata, because it is having all the essence, everything very elaborately explained, and it is there out there for everybody, And then not only that, he has also delineated the Nirakara Brahman completely through the Vedanta Sutra. So after doing all these things, Narada is asking, why are you looking so despondent? What is the problem Because when you look at it on face value, when you look at Vyasa Maharshi, there is actually nothing left for him to achieve. You know, you are supposed to delineate the Vedas, you have done that, you have given it, you have asked your disciples to expand it, and then you yourself have given the exposition of it in the terms of Vedanta Sutra. And then for all the people of the lower modes, you know, Stri, Shudra, Dvijabandhunam, for them, he has already done the Mahabharata. So, practically, like Narad Muni says, your studies are complete, you know, and everything you have done. So, then Vyasa, now he is, you know, he is admitting, why am I dissatisfied, you know. So, he says that all what you have said, hey Narada, everything is correct. But even after doing all these things, even after doing this much of work, somehow I am not fully satisfied, you know. And then he is telling Narada Muni that, therefore I am questioning you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction. For you are a man of unlimited knowledge due to your being the offspring of Brahma, who is self-born. You see? That is, Vyasa's question is very, very important. Not only that Vyasa's question is important, it's also very pertinent as to whom Vyasa Maharshi is addressing this question, you know. This is how we should understand this. Not only that he has questioned, he has also questioned the right person, you know. Why is it that Vyasa Maharshi should ask this question to Narada Muni? Savai bhavan veda samasta guhyam upasito yat purushah purana paravaresho manasaiva vishwam srajatyavatyathi gunaira sangaha. My Lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you because you worship the creator and the destroyer of the material world and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to the three modes of the material nature. So, Savai bhavan veda samasta guhyam upasito yat purusha purana. Because everything that is guhyam, samasta guhyam, the entire secret of the creation and the universe is known to you. Why? Because upasito yat purusha purana. You are always engaged in the upasana of that Purana Purusha. You know, and therefore nothing is unknown to you. And then Vyasa Maharshi continues to glorify his Guru. He says that like the sun, you can travel everywhere in the three worlds, and like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive super soul. Please therefore find the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulations and vows. So, now Vyasa says, as far as I know, I have not done anything wrong. As far as I know, I have done everything to the best of my ability. But still, I am having this despondency. Somehow I am not happy. You know, and this is coming from that person who has written everything practically. You know. So, Narada Muni immediately he will diagnose Vyasa Maharshi's problem. You know, this is another very interesting interaction between Guru and disciple, Guru Shishya. Because the Shishya is having Vyasa Maharshi, although he is the topmost of all the Vedantis, being the writer, being the author of Vedanta, but still, when he has a problem, he takes it up to his Guru. And immediately, you see, this is perfect Guru and Shishya. Immediately the Guru will identify and tell him, this is what your problem is. You know. Bhavatanudita prayam yasho bhagavato amalam yenai vasau natushye tamanye tad darshanam khilam. So Narada Muni said, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. Yasho Bhagavato Amalam, that Supreme Bhagavan whose Yasha is Amalam. That means whose fame has actually no mala, whose fame is pure, you know. So, that philosophy which does not satisfy the senses, transcendental senses of the Lord, is considered worthless. Yenaivaso natushyeta manyeta darshanam khilam. That means whatever you have done is not enough only because you have not, what you have not done, Yasho Bhagavato Amalam. So, you did not broadcast the Yasha, the glory of that Supreme Personality of Godhead who is completely pure, whose activities are pure, whose Yasha is pure. Everything about him is pure. Spotless, Prabhupada says, you know. So, although he is the author of the Vedanta, Prabhupada is writing that although Vyasa is the author of Vedanta Darshana, he himself is not happy, he is troubled. So, what sort of transcendental bliss can be derived by the readers and listeners of Vedanta if it is not explained by Vyasa? Herein arises the necessity of explaining the Vedanta Sutra in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam by the self-same author. So now, Prabhupada in his purport, he very clearly gives it to us as to why is it important that even if one is learned up to the Vedanta Sutra, you will still not get transcendental bliss without venturing into the ocean of transcendental bliss, which is called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Narada Muni continues to say, although you have broadly described the four principles beginning with religious performances, you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality Vasudeva. That is, Narada Muni again is saying that you actually gave emphasis to the four Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. You know, while emphasizing on the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, the Chatur Purusharthas, Vyasa actually did not take into consider the Panchama Purushartha, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks about. Panchama Purushartha is Krishna Prema. That means that Purushartha which is above all the four Purusharthas is Krishna Prema, that has actually got nothing to do with these four Purusharthas. So, Narad Muni says you have not done that. And then he continues to say that there are two types of literatures, you know. There are two types of literatures. One is materialistic literature. Nayadvachas chitrapadam harer yasho jagat pavitram pragranita karhichit tadvayasam tirthamushanti manasa nayatra hamsa niramantyu shikshaya. Those literatures that do not describe what the harer yasho, that literature which is not describing the glories of Lord Hari, who actually sanctifies Jagat Pavitram. He is sanctifying the entire universe. Such literatures are considered by sadhus to be a pilgrimage place for crows. And since the all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. So they say that anything that any literature actually that is not glorifying Harer Yasha, the Yasha of Lord Hari, such literature is as good as a pilgrimage place for crows. You know, in Shastras it mentions about two types of birds basically, to denote two types of people. A crow is considered to be the among the birds. The crow is like a scavenger. You will find that wherever there is waste thrown, you will find crow there. You know. So crow is that kind of a bird. And then there is another bird which is called the swan, the hamsa. Hamsa and Kaka, you know. So Hamsa is that bird which can actually, if it is given a mixture of water and milk, it can actually filter out the water and drink only the milk. That is swan, you know. So materialistic people are compared to kakam or crow, because always interested only in waste. And spiritually inclined people are like hamsas. They know how to take the essence or the sara out of what is given, the best. Whatever best is given, even among that they can take out the saram. You see? So crow is something that will always go for the waste. Hamsa is something that will always go for the best. And then about the transcendental literatures, Narada Muni is saying, Tadvag visargo janatagha viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhaddhavatyapi namanyanantasya yashonkitani yat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhavaha. Tadvag visargo janatagha viplavo. You know, this will actually create a revolution. Srila Prabhupada, in his introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam, he quotes this shloka. And he says that this Bhagavatam will bring Janatagha Viplavo. You know, it will bring a revolution among the common men. Because this literature, which is describing the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord, you know, it is completely different because it is full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution. You see? So Srimad Bhagavatam will revolutionize the human society. How? Simply, if people read it, they will become spiritual. This is the revolutionary impact of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And even though they are Namanya Anantasya Yashonkitani Yat Yasmin Pratishlokam Abhaddhavatyapi. That is, even if there are some mistakes in that literature, you know, in the poetic beauty or in the grammar or anything like that, still, even if something is there, it will still be considered great. Why? Because it is actually describing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is Yasho Murare. It is speaking about the Yashas of Murari, the killer of the demon Mura. So even if there is some grammar mistake, something like that, it is okay because it is still transcendental. And Srila Prabhupada says that even though we are presenting this, for example, right now, we are presenting this in the English language, which is actually very limited when it comes to explaining or expressing spiritual subject matter. But Srila Prabhupada himself says that even though we are making this presentation in a very limited manner in the English language, it is still to be considered very effective because we are simply speaking about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada also speaks in this, the purport to this shloka, when Prabhupada is speaking, he says that, you know, the great failure of Bharata Desha is that we somehow could not broadcast this message of Srimad Bhagavatam worldwide. So there is war among nations in the world. And as Prabhupada was writing purport for this shloka, particular shloka of the first canto, at that time, I am talking about the 60s, when there was military confrontation between India and China. And Prabhupada writes about that also in this purport. You know, and he says that it is because previously we were all engaged in our spiritual pursuits and we did not have time for war. Now, because there is no spiritual pursuit, so we just, you know, demarcate areas and then we claim ownership. One claims ownership over the others and things like that. So actually, the transcendental literatures are meant to revolutionize human society, and more explicitly so the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is meant to create a revolution within each and every man who reads it. That is the revolution. It is not some, Bolshevik revolution, or it is not some, I don't know, Che Guevara or Marx, or those revolutions are actually complete waste. But this revolution of actually spiritualizing the person who is receiving this literature, this revolution is what is wanted. So that every person gets a spiritual understanding and thereby becomes a better human being. And that way this society actually becomes more fit for human beings to live. So Narada Muni is glorifying such literature. And then Narada Muni says that actually bhakti is the only valuable asset. Naishkarmyam api achyuta bhava varjitam nashopade jnanam alam niranjanam kutah punah shashvat abhadram ishware nacharpitam karma yadyapya karanam. That is, knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if it is devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities? Naishkarmyam api achyuta bhava varjitam. Even if you are performing Naishkarmya, and it is actually very painful, what Naishkarmya. So, if these things cannot be utilized for the service of Achyuta, then what is the use? And Narada Muni goes on to say that Vyasa, you are very qualified to become a transcendental author. Why? Because you are Mahabhaga. You are very fortunate. You are Amoghadrik. You have perfect vision. You are Shuchishrava. Your fame is spotless. You are Satyarata. That means you are very truthful. And you are Dradavrata. Once you take a vrata, you will be very drada on that. And you can think. Akhila Bandha Muktaye. You can think for everyone's liberation. So, Vyasa, actually you are the greatest philanthropist. Narada Muni is telling Vyasadeva. You are actually the greatest philanthropist because you actually have the welfare of everyone in your heart. And you are actually very, very fit to give this opportunity for everyone to become liberated. And whatever that is described as separate, Pratak Drisha, from the Supreme Lord, it is actually only an agitation to the mind. Meaning, anything that is described or explained without connection to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even if that is considered to be the highest of all knowledge, it actually simply agitates the mind, that's all. And Narada Muni is giving the example of, wind agitating a boat which has no resting place. If the boat is there and it is not anchored, you see, an anchorless boat, it will keep on swaying with the wind, it will keep moving with the wind. And that is very dangerous for the boat. So, it is very dangerous to let the mind become agitated all the time like that. So, it needs an anchor. That anchor is its link, connection to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Narada Muni says that already people are naturally inclined to enjoy sense gratification. And what have you done is that you have encouraged them in that way, in the name of religion. You see, Yadvakyato dharma ititarastito namanyate tasya nivaranam jana. That is, because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and hardly care for prohibitions. Jugupsidam dharma krite. So, you gave all this dharmartha kama moksha, and you have also given the prohibitions, the do's and the don'ts. But Narada Muni is saying, because people only want to enjoy, what they will do? They will simply ignore the don'ts and then they will take and do the do's. That means eventually the whole dharma becomes only to fulfill kama. That is, when you actually misunderstand the Chatur Purusharthas, you will end up engaging in dharma only to get your karma satisfied. And that is what is being pointed out. So Narada Muni also says that the Supreme Lord is unlimited and only a very expert personality retired from the activities of material happiness deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not so well situated due to material attachment should be shown ways of transcendental realization by your goodness through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. So, in normal course, only very elevated people who are actually detached from material life, they are only able to understand this science of transcendence. But you have this duty of actually giving that understanding to everybody. Why? Because you are a philanthropist, because you are a well-wisher, because you are a do-gooder. So you have to take up that responsibility. Now Narada Muni is actually instructing Vyasadeva, that you have to take that responsibility and you have to give that opportunity. And then the next shloka, Narada Muni says, Tyaktva swadharmam charanambujam harer bhajanyapakko vat pathet tatho yati yatra kvava bhadram abhudha mushyakim kovarta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. This is one shloka that is quoted by Srila Prabhupada so often, so often, because this is actually glorifying bhakti. And it is a verse that indicates how once progress is made in bhakti, that progress remains there forever. It doesn't get negated. Just like in this lifetime, whatever I earn, when I leave this body, everything is finished. Zero it becomes. In the next janma, again I have to start earning from zero only. But bhakti is not like that. So, in this shloka, Narada Muni is saying that one who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord, tyaktva swadharmam, giving up once all other dharmas, charanambujam harer, one who has caught hold of the charanambuja of Hari, bhajanna pakko tapathet tathoyati. That is, he may fall down while he is very immature. But he says, yatra kva va abhadram. Yet there is no danger of this being unsuccessful. Why? Because it is forever. You take one step, that step remains. You make 1 millimeter progress spiritually in bhakti, that 1 millimeter progress always remains with you. Okay? Not like, a non-devotee, although he is fully engaged in occupational duties, he gains nothing, Narada Muni says. And then he says that tasyaiva heto prayateta kovito na labhyate yad brahmatam uparyatha tad labhyate dukkha vadan anyata sukham kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa. Narada Muni continues to say how all these material positions that we have, they are not permanent. So, one should endeavor only to revive the eternal relationship with Krishna and go back, because tal labhyate dukkhavat anyatha sukham kalena sarvatra gabhira ramhasa. This time factor will take everything away, So, somebody who is kovida, somebody who is intelligent, somebody who is an expert, he understands this. So what he will do? He will endeavor to revive that eternal relationship with Krishna. And devotee actually does not undergo material existence like others, because Lord Krishna will pull him back. Mukunda sevyanyavad anga samsritim smaran mukundangri upaguhanam punar vihatamiche narasagraho jana. That is, even though a devotee of Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or the other, but he will not. Navai jano jatu kathanchana vrajen. That is, he will not like the materialistic, he will not undergo again material existence like others who are not devotees, others who are engaged in kamya karma. Because why? Smaran mukundangri upaha gunam punar vihatum icchenna rasagraho jana. That is, if he has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord, mukundangri, then he cannot do anything except to remember that happiness again and again. So, even though we are an imperfect devotee, even though we are impure devotee, even though we are insincere devotee, but if we have got some little taste, then we will always come back for more. That is why it is very important that we develop a taste for hearing Krishna Katha. It is very important to develop a taste to perform some service for Krishna. It is very important to develop a taste for life filled with bhakti. If not fully filled, at least life has some bhakti anga in it, And then Narada Muni is very clearly telling Vyasadeva that you have to expand the supremacy of the Lord as the primeval cause, creator, maintainer and destroyer. And you, as an empowered plenary portion of the Lord, you know the Lord and therefore you should glorify Him more vividly. You see, it is very important that whatever you know, you should explain. So Narada Muni is telling Vyasa, you know everything. Because you are a plenary portion, you are an empowered incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So, you have to explain very vividly. And then he says that the infallible purpose of advancement of knowledge culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord. Yad uttama shloka gunanu varnanam. That is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Himself this cosmos and still He is aloof from us. From Him only that cosmic manifestation has emanated, in Him it rests and unto Him it will enter after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have only given you a synopsis. Therefore, learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of advancement of knowledge, austerities, study of Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns, charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord who is defined in choicest poetry. That whatever you do, whether you are studying Vedas, whether you are engaged in gaining jnana, whether you are doing tapasya, or whether you are doing yajna, or whether you are doing parayana, or whether you are doing dana, everything ultimately culminates in uttama shloka gunanu varnanam. And if something is not culminating in that uttama shloka gunanu varnanam, then everything that you do will become a useless task. Is it not? And then Narada Muni goes on to explain what happened in his previous life. He is going to give Vyasa Maharshi an indication, as to how he became what he is, So then he goes on to explain that I was previously the son of a maidservant and somehow I was engaged in serving some brahmanas during the Chaturmasya, And Narada Muni said, as a boy, I was also very inclined towards that kind of serving devotees. Unlike other children, I did not have any tendency to go out and play. I was not naughty. I was not talkative, I was having some natural inclination towards serving these great Rishi Munis, And Prabhupada says there that although he was the son of the most insignificant parentage and he was not properly educated, but because his complete energy was engaged in the service of the Lord, he became an immortal sage. Such is the powerful action of devotional service. So Narada Muni, what is, if you consider the qualification of Narada Muni from the previous birth, it is actually nothing except the fact that he had an inclination to perform bhakti. You see? So Narada Muni, he had that opportunity to receive the remnants of those great personalities. He said those Vedantis, they were very impartial and they were very merciful to me. So they gave me some remnants of their food. And then he says that in that association and by the mercy of those great Vedantis, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna. And thus, listening attentively, my taste for hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step. See? So it was not only that, because when they were discussing these subject matters, this boy was having that inclination towards devotional service. He also sat and heard. You see? And because he sat and heard, Prabhupada says, Krishna has different ways of attracting devotees towards him. One is by his countenance, one is by his beauty. Anybody who sees Krishna, like Rupa Goswami says, please don't go to the banks of Yamuna. And even if you do go to the banks of Yamuna, don't look at that boy who is a dark complexioned boy, who is standing in a tree bent pose and is playing on his flute. Don't look at that boy. Why? Because if you look at that boy, your life is finished. Your what life is finished? Your material life is finished. Rupa Goswami says like that in a most poetic manner. He speaks like that. So, Prabhupada says here that Krishna not only attracts by his beauty, he is also attracting devotees by his activities, which when you hear, simply hearing about Shravanam of Krishna Leela actually purifies. Gradually we become pure. That is why even though you have heard Krishna Leela yesterday, you are hearing today, tomorrow you hear again, probably it is the same Leela, Putanavadham, let us say. Every day you sit and read Putanavadham, it is going to do the same thing. She will come dressed beautifully, she will enter Nanda Gopal's home and she will ask them, please give me Krishna on my lap, and then she will take him and then she will try to feed him, and her breasts are covered with poison, and then Krishna will suck the life out of her, right? This is Putanavadham. By now, so many times you would have heard it, correct? And tomorrow if somebody again speaks Putanavadham, are they going to say something different? No. But by hearing more, we become more and more purified by such hearing. That is why it is very important that we should develop a taste to hear. It is very important lesson we get from Narada Muni's previous life. And Narada Muni says that, so once I got this taste, my attention to hear was very unflinching. And when it developed, I could realize that I had accepted the gross and subtle coverings of myself only due to ignorance. So actually, as far as Narada Muni was concerned, he had his Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha and Ruchi taken care during this Chaturmasya time in the association of these devotees, and then he was hearing with Asakti, and with Asakti he was hearing, and that Asakti increased and it became Bhava, So simply by hearing, he says during the monsoon and the autumn season, 4 months, he heard, and then he developed Prema, which destroys Rajas and Tamas, He says that I constantly heard, and then everything, it became open up to me. My Rajas and Tamas completely vanished. And Prabhupada says that this inclination towards devotional service for Krishna is actually dormant in all living entities. You know, when we get the association of sadhus, when we get the association of sadhus, what happens? It will start from sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti, like that it continues. Okay, so this is what happened to Narad Muni also. And he says that as they were leaving those Bhakti Vedantas who are very kind to poor hearted souls, they instructed me in the most confidential subject, which is instructed directly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he understood the influence of the Supreme Lord, who is the creator, maintainer and destroyer, knowing which one can return to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. I can return to him and personally meet him. Okay. And then he says that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Yetat samsuchitam brahmam stapatraya chikitsidam yadishware bhagavati karma brahmani bhavitam. That best remedial measure to remove all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, because the Supreme Lord is the ultimate sanctioning authority. So, whatever trouble is there, we have to surrender and offer everything that we do to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the instruction Narada Muni is giving to Vyasa Maharshi here. And then he says that, O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? That is, when something causes a disease, you use that same thing as a medicine. This is told by told by Narada Muni to Vyasadeva. Now we are trying to find a vaccine for the virus. From where will you get the vaccine? You actually get the vaccine from the virus only. That virus is grown in a culture, and then they see, what will act opposite to that virus is, in a limited way that virus itself will be given, and that virus will create the, all the scientific stuff. Okay. So this is already spoken like this by Narada Muni to Vyasa here, saying that, activities that ordinarily cause perpetual bondage when dedicated to Lord service destroy the tree of work. That is, here Narada Muni is speaking about what? Karma is the one that causes bondage. Why? When you are attracted to the results of what you do, karma binds. When you offer all results to Krishna, karma liberates. You see? So that is what Narada Muni says. That which will actually cause a problem, when you use it as a medicine, that will cure it. So, yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad adhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam. Whatever work is done here in this life for satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called bhakti yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord, and what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. So, whatever we do for the satisfaction of Krishna, that is bhakti yoga. So, we must also understand from this that bhakti yoga is actually performing something for Krishna's pleasure, not for my pleasure. Even though that activity may look like a devotional service, but if something I am doing that for my pleasure, I feel very happy. When I am reading Bhagavatam, I am feeling very happy. But for me to become happy, I should not read. To please Krishna, I should read, and happiness comes to me automatically. It's a very subtle thing. Okay? It's very subtle. I shouldn't do this to satisfy myself. I shouldn't do this to make myself happy. I should do this to please Krishna, and whatever happiness comes out of that, I accept it very gladly. This is the actual way of engaging in bhakti yoga. And then he continues to say that while performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, one constantly remembers him, his names and qualities. And then he says that Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Aniruddhaya Namah Sankarshanaya Cha. Let us all chant the glories of Vasudeva along with his plenary expansions Pradyumna, Aniruddha and Sankarshana. And then he says that thus that person is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who has no material form. So Narad Muni says that the actual seer, Pashyanti, seeing, is one who can worship the Supreme Lord in the form of transcendental sound representation. So simply by vibrating the Lord's holy name, we can worship that person, and that person who can worship like that, he says, that is the actual seer. And then he says that by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, Narada Muni is now saying, why am I saying all these things to you? Because Narada Muni says, I have personal experience. I was endowed with transcendental knowledge of the Vedas, the spiritual opulence and intimated loving service. That is, Narada Muni got from the Supreme Lord directly. What did he get? Knowledge of Vedas. He got understanding about the spiritual opulences, and then understanding of the intimate loving service of the Lord. So Narada Muni is not an ordinary personality. He is telling Vyasa, I know all these things. I have understood this directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he is telling Vyasa, therefore, my dear Vyasadeva, please describe the Almighty Lord's activities which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of the great learned man and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. So, this is Narada Muni's conclusion of the 5th chapter, where he is explicitly instructing Vyasadeva that you have so much of experience and knowledge from Vedas about the unlimited glorious actions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and now it is for you to write it down so that it not only attracts the transcendentalist, it will of course attract the transcendentalist, It of course will attract the transcendentalist, because it says that Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. That means those people who are already having a taste for transcendental happiness, Ananda, they will enjoy it. But it is not only for them, it is also for the common man who is suffering the pangs of material life. For him also, Narada Muni actually says that there is no other way for the common man to get out of this condition of misery. There is no way for the common man to get out of his miserable situation except by you giving this explanation, you giving this narration of the glorious pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, it is practically there is no other way except for Vyasa to speak about the unlimited glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is how the 5th chapter of the 1st canto gets concluded. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.